Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. What an exciting week it's been in the Bitcoin mining, AI, and HPC sector. We're going to be looking back on the week, talking about some of the price action, headlines, and news we've discussed on the podcast throughout the past few days. In addition to that, big news out from Bitfarms today and a great recap on where we see these miners going over the next few months. With that being said, before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. Let us know in the comment section below which of the miners you're currently feeling most bullish on and why. With that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay, guys, Friday afternoon, the last podcast of the week. What an event-filled week of trading in the Bitcoin mining / AI HPC space. A tremendous week in terms of returns and profits. Unfortunately, today, maybe not looking as rosy as the rest of the days. We were off to the races early trading. Things have tapered off a little bit. Bitcoin prices pulled back. We also have some macro news in terms of Trump and the tariff situation with China. So we'll get into all of that, along with some of our key takeaways from the week on your favorite miner picks. Before we do, though, Bitcoin itself continuing to retreat. We talked about this story in terms of staying in the $120,000 band. It appears Bitcoin has now broken out of that trend to the downside.
Yeah, and yesterday after close, the Bitcoin price started to move heading towards that 122, and it reached that today, and very much more in early trading, very strong in terms of this and the stocks there. But the news that came out regarding the president and the tariffs that is going to apply to China has not just sent the Bitcoin price spiraling down, it's sent the markets down, everything's down. So even we're looking at the chart on the podcast now, it's 118,000. It could change to 117, 116 by the time we finish. It's going down that quickly. So we've seen this happen before. Back in, I think it was February, when again it was the tariffs for Canada and the tariffs for Mexico, and news items that come out from the White House just can really change the pace of the markets. And yeah, a bit of a sell-off today in terms of pricing.
Hey, that's okay. We know one thing that doesn't have anything to do with tariffs is Bitcoin. It's decentralized, so we'll chalk this up to somewhat of a nothing burger. It seems every couple weeks or months we get one of these headlines and it shocks the market a little bit. I will say it's nice almost to get a little bit of air out of the tires. Some of these companies are up tremendously over the past week. That's what we're going to actually be talking about next up. And they do need a little bit of a breather here. Stocks don't go up in a straight line. I will give you some credit, Anthony. I know you exercised a few stop losses or limit sells this morning. We covered that in our miners member only video. We put those out each and every Friday. So if you guys want to take a look at that, definitely some alpha in there. And for $3 a month might be worth helping out your exit strategy. Now, in terms of the miners, you've made reference to the fact that they were quite volatile today, to say the least. I think this is probably my biggest single individual swing day in terms of my account, up to down. Now, the miners, there are a few names that are still managing to be in the green here, but for the most part have retreated into the red.
Yeah, you're quite right. And actually, with the Bitcoin price, dropping, for nearly $5,000, the expectation is the miners would fall as well. But actually, there are still a few in the green there. Bitfarms, still looking quite strong, 8%, and we'll come on to a bit of a news update from Bitfarms. I'm looking at the volume there for Bitfarms, 162 million shares traded. The average volume is a third of that, and we're not even a few hours into trading day. But you can see from the day range there on all these stocks, look at where they were, at the highest of the days to where they are now. So Bitfarms had gone past the $5 mark. It's still up now at $4.52. It's been down as low as $4.32. So a lot of movement in all these stocks. Core Scientific having a better day as well, and we'll put our slide up with Core Scientific. That deal's less than 3 weeks away now. Shareholders have got to get the chance to decide whether they think the deal's a good deal for them or whether they believe This deal is a challenge, and we'll talk more about that when we get to that in the podcast. TeraWulf having a great day as well. Good volumes. TeraWulf share price $15.51 at its highest today. It's pulled back now to 13.77. But this was the rally. I mean, literally the build up in pre-market, everything was green. I was looking at my trading account because it does allow me to buy and sell shares in pre-market. I thought this is a really strong day. The market opened. It got even stronger after the market opened for a very, very short period of time, and then the news came out and it dropped there. And some of the stocks, as you can see in red there, Soluna down, heading towards 12%. Well, we know Soluna has been quite volatile over the last few months there, and it does have these big swing days. It can be down 12%, it can be up 30% the next day. So they've had so many news items out. American Bitcoin equally 6% down there, Bitdeer down 6% nearly, and then Mara, Hut, and Riot all sort of in the low percentages down there. But you can see from the day range, a lot of these stocks were a lot higher before that news came out. Hopefully the weekend will give things time to settle down. We may get something out next week to say maybe the tariffs aren't going to be as high for China, and he's prepared to meet the president of China and have that discussion, and then come out with a handshake and everything's rosy again and the markets take off. This may be, for some, it could be a buying opportunity. I've made some sales today. I managed to get those sales in just after market open, and they've all really brought me some good profits. But there's a potential with the way this is going now, the rest of the day might be a buying opportunity by the end of the day, and ready to go into the market early next week. So time will tell on that one there. If we go to the heat map, which is looking at we like to put the heat map up, it looks at all the different periods there. Today might be a red day for most miners, but believe you me, the week has been really, really good. If you look at the likes of Bitfarms, look at the likes of Hive Digital, 54% up on the week. That's even with a small pullback today. CleanSpark up 24%, IREN up 24%. Soluna might only be up 2% on the week, but if you go to the month, 285% up on the month. No company's grown that much in the last month than Soluna. DMG also having a great month, up 81%, up 14% on the week, and the share price is unchanged today. So, holding off that fall in Bitcoin and managing to be stable there. High for the month, 120%, and Bitfarms 157%. Some really, really good performances over the month. If it had been blindfolded and thrown a dart into a dartboard with the mining companies around it, you could have picked a lot of winners in this last month. They're all showing really, really strong positions. In fact, if I look down the list there, Mara at 22% in the last month is the worst performing stock. I bet if you put the money in the bank and see how long it takes, you get 22% back on your return, take you probably 5 or 6 years. They've done it in a month there. So I know there's been a bit of criticism about some of these stocks, maybe, not seeing as much information from the company or going in the right direction as some of the other miners there, but still the market's given them some credibility there. 22% up for Mara.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about Mara, they are lagging some of the other miners in the sector. But if we jump over to their site, you can see a tremendous portfolio, 18 data centers, 4 continents, over 60 exahash now of Bitcoin mining. So it's really just a matter of time, I think, until we do get some clarity on that HPC roadmap.
Absolutely. It seems that, CleanSpark have gone 180 degrees. They're looking to try and utilize all their power towards HPC now, and Mara will no doubt follow suit. The writing's on the wall. There's a shortage in power in North America. Mara have got some big sites. They own the majority of the sites that they operate in America. Bitcoin mining, as Fred Thiel said a few years ago, hasn't got that long left in North America for the public miners because energy prices is going to kill it post the next halving. He should be having his eye now on using that power to create a better return, and HPC is a better return, as we've seen from a number of the miners there, and they've got power to put towards that strategy. Let's see if they come out with some more updates on that particular news.
Yeah, good point. We've seen CleanSpark just make that pivot as well. The other point I wanted to bring up, you mentioned Core Scientific. They're one of the few in the green today. Maybe we can get an update on that chart, the comparative chart. We know the vote's coming up, and Core Scientific shares are actually trading quite well in preparation for that vote.
And the share price, in literally when the market opened, went well above $19. So getting very close to that $20.40. Remember, the week before the announcement of the deal, which was on the 7th of July, the rumors came out and the share price was reaching in the $18 range that particular week there. And I know a number of of friends who bought significant amount of shares in Core Scientific were starting to sell their positions before the news actually came out because they'd made significant profits. We haven't seen the levels of that $19 since today, and it went above $19. It's pulled back to $18.20 at the time of the podcast, which is about $1 more than the indicative price of the contract at the moment. Remember, CoreWeave have given a sort of like a deal based on the CoreWeave floating share price, or whatever the CoreWeave share price is on the day of the actual vote. If the vote gets approved, that's what the deals stand there. And so if you look at the CoreWeave share price today, it's around about $140. So we have seen some big improvement. The indicative value of the contract is about 7.58. It was 9 billion on the day of the contract. So again, probably about 18% to gain on that. But early today, we were seeing that creeping ever so closer to the $20 mark. Maybe if we hadn't had the news that came out from the White House, we may have seen it get extremely close to that 2040 range because all the market was going, exceedingly well before that news item came up.
Yeah, just incredible.
Yeah, and we'll give a shout out to Riot as well. 33% up on the month, 181% on the year change there. They've had a challenging 2024. Remember, they had that batch of machines that weren't operating as well at their site there, and they managed to get those replaced, and they're now using micro BT machines. That transparency is probably gives shareholders a little bit of positivity in terms of they now can sort of see that transparency, see where Riot are going. They're going to utilize that 600 megawatts towards HPC at Corsicana. They're already doing the groundworks at Rockdale. That's a 700 megawatt facility. They've got no tenants in there now. They've got a lot of power there in play with a PPA agreement. So they've got a fixed price agreement for the power there. That could equally be a sizable HPC. So I think the market's picking up on the fact that they've got two great assets that have already got power, and that puts them probably ahead of the game of many of the other miners that are out there that have already got deals because they've already got the sites with power. They could have to do some refurbishments to the buildings and get going there. But they're playing the game now that they'll use Rockdale to fund some of the refurbishments that are required because they'll keep mining there, get that revenues in there. And Jason's got a handle on this. Hopefully we'll get some good updates when we go down to Corsicana in November for our tour.
We certainly will, yeah. So a nice little update there, or weekly look back in terms of the share price or price action over the week. Now we wanted to get into the top news stories. So one new one to add to the list today, Bitfarms. Again, they were caught up in this situation with Riot for a lot of last year. They seem to have now kind of gone their separate ways. Bitfarms really focused on this Pennsylvania Panther Creek facility in partnership with Macquarie. They just came out with some exciting news today in that regard.
Yeah, so they've announced they're going to draw a further 50 million from the $300 million dollars that Macquarie have put towards this transition to high performance compute. And they've also converted that debt facility that Macquarie got to now a 300 million project financing. So this additional 50 million will be, used to help develop the first 50 megawatts at Panther Creek. So that's getting the substation built there, getting the grounds ready for, the buildings to go on there. And that will probably help towards deliver that first 50 megawatts that they're looking to achieve there. Get that 50 megawatts underway there. Let the market know they can deliver HPC, and they've got then a multitude of other sites that they can start working from. But this is a great update today. I mean, the share price in the last month has been absolutely amazing. I don't think there's many other miners that have had a great run as they've had there. I mean, just think we're only talking 3 or 4 months ago. The share price was getting close to falling in that delisting category when it dropped below a dollar for a certain amount of range there. But Ben was very confident that the work they were doing in their Pennsylvania sites there would help them deliver that. And he's been absolutely right there. He was buying shares when the share price was just over $1, I think $1.60, something like that. He's got the confidence to go in there. He's made a number of purchases this year. I don't see too many other CEOs putting their arms in the pocket and drawing out their own money to buy shares. But Ben was very, very keen to show that, he believes everything they're doing at Bitfarms. They've got a great team there supporting him. And the share price has actually been on a tear.
It certainly has, yeah. And as they say, there's a million reasons to sell a stock, whether you need the money or health or house or moving or whatever. There's only one reason to buy, and that's because you feel like you're going to make more money. So it's a great indicator when you see the CEO himself doing that. Now, we've talked a lot about this Panther Creek site. We have all these great renderings, really a focal point of the portfolio. But I want to remind people, although we're seeing a lot of interest in Pennsylvania, Bitfarms has a lot more under the hood. So if you look at kind of their portfolio map here, you'll see these colored lines. Those are actually the international underwater fiber lines to Europe and Canada and other markets around the world. They've got not only Pennsylvania on the East Coast, they also have Washington on the West Coast here. This is another data center project or potential project, only 18 megawatts. But if you look at the proximity to the Quincy cluster, to some of these international fiber connections, this could really be a real asset in their portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got these sites strategically placed there, and there's going to be a high demand for compute in both of those areas. So I think the market started to wake up, and again, it's all about that. What does the market need in terms of HPC? It needs power. Where are they going to get the power from? Well, there's a lot of miners out there sitting with a lot of power or a lot of pipeline of power, and it looks like Bitfarms, changing that strategy, moving out of South America, giving up that Paraguay strategy to put all their focus now on delivering everything in the US, and it looks like it's really been the great decision. The market capitalization say was, I think, approximately about $2.5 billion. I mean, you could go back a few months ago, it was in the sort of $500 million range. So it's had a really good move up on that position there, and rightly so. It looks like from what we was hearing back in March in Miami when we attended a conference there, a lot of people were, vying. A lot of people were saying strong words about the Panther Creek site and the Washington site there, and we're hearing that now obviously from the company, but we had knowledge there that that those sites were really strong sites in terms of HPC AI possibilities.
Yeah, you're right there. And if we actually go back 2 decks ago, you'll see they had this nice little slide with the green check marks. Not only Washington and Panther Creek, but Scrubgrass, Pennsylvania, we've also heard a lot of discussion about, and Sharon. So a number of sites, as you can see, they hit all the requirements: immediate capacity, land, fiber, proximity to these major urban areas. So there's a lot there. It really now is a matter of financing it, building it out, and getting these partnerships in place to really kind of capitalize on that vision. So with that being said, now we wanted to transition into the weekly look back portion here. It's been a busy week at Power Mining Analysis. We started off on Monday with the perfect storm. Then we had that big news from IREN. What's next for IREN? We had updates from Digital, Cipher, Soluna, and we're starting to see a lot of new viewers and returning viewers to the channel. So the week kicked off Monday, Miner's perfect storm. It really feels like a lot of these factors are coming together. And we wanted to talk about some of our key or favorite headlines from the week. So I would argue Cipher's announcement with FluidStack Google, that really, I guess, kicked off this rally this week, validating the thesis that miners can do HPC and it can be done in Texas.
Yeah, it certainly did. And that 180 and that 168 megawatt contract with FluidStack, supported by Google, has really got the market going, because it's not just looking at Cipher now, it's looking at all the potential miners, and all those miners that have got a strategy or a link towards HPC all felt the same benefit this week. So amazing headline. And, it wouldn't surprise me in the same way that TeraWulf announced when they had their deal with FluidStack that we'll see a second deal there. Remember, there's more power at Barber Lake, at least another 50 megawatts there. They've got 150 megawatts at their Black Pearl site. And remember, There's 150 megawatts of mining capacity at Blackpool that's being utilised at the moment. But Tyler said, if the deal came along, he'd move that 150 megawatts of miners out there and focus the whole 300 megawatts towards HPC, because those two sites, they've now got the power, they're energized, and they have a string of about 4 or 5 other sites, three of which are 500 megawatt sites. They're a bit further down the field. I mean, let's not say, HPC is going to happen all in one year. These are all planned developments that will take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to progress. So if people are thinking all this power there, they can deliver it in 18 months, that's not going to happen. Bitfarms have got a really good plan. Cipher have got a good plan, and many of the other miners have got a good plan. You can only do what you can in a time period, given the amount of capital that you're going to have to borrow to get to that position there. And people want to know that you can deliver it. So all eyes will be watching the likes of TeraWulf, the likes of Cipher, the likes of IREN delivering these HPC deals. Core Scientific are already starting to deliver their deals. The facility at Denton has already been converted. It's been energized, and they're already receiving revenues from CoreWeave. But we'll start hearing more and more about the delivery of these services as that information comes into the market, probably through their earnings updates, probably through releases from various other organizations. And once the market sees that a company can deliver, then there'll be more opportunities to borrow to complete that strategy going forward and complete these other sites.
It's an interesting point you bring up, the multi-year length of a lot of these decisions. I've heard a lot of people talking about this being a 10-year AI CapEx cycle. You need to remember that this stuff doesn't happen with the snap of a finger. So even if this sector was to slow down, people are talking, oh, is AI, HPC a bubble? Is Bitcoin a bubble? These are multi-year, $100 million, billion commitments. They take time to get going and they take time to slow down. So I do think this cycle we may see, at least in the Bitcoin miner sector, a longer bull cycle than maybe some of the other Bitcoin proxies like the treasury companies, for example. Now, the next highlight from the week we wanted to talk about, Bit Digital, Sam Tabar, always a great guy to have on the show. He's obviously involved in the HPC AI realm as well through their White Fiber subsidiary. That's now a public company. However, on the Bitcoin side, he decided to cash in his chips and move over to Ethereum. That's proving to be a good decision, and he's now doubling down over 150,000 ETH now.
Yeah, and remember, a month ago they had just over 121,000 ETH. So you're probably wondering how they got to 150,000. Well, they used that 150 million convertible note to buy a significant chunk of Ethereum and add to their balance sheet. Remember, this is now a race now for Bit Digital to grow that treasury balance. They believe that the Ethereum price over the next few years is going to excel very, very quickly, and they want to be in a position where they can own as much as possible and have that as their sort of treasury management position there. Remember, the difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin is that Bit Digital managed to get in a staking fee as well. And in the month of September, they nearly received something like 300 or very close to 300 Ethereum as part of their staking rewards. That's over $1 million. Multiply that by 12, and with the Ethereum balances increased there, you could be looking at 15, $16 million annualized revenue just by staking your Ethereum. So it's more money into the group without having to actually expend any money. This isn't where you've got to use staff or facilities. This is you just staking that balance there. So their intention is to grow that as quickly as possible. There are quite a few Ethereum treasury management companies now. Bit Digital just happens to have one of the largest balances out there. And we'll pay close attention to how Sam's strategy moves forward in the coming months.
We sure will. And yeah, talk about the margins on staking, 100% profit margin. Pretty hard to argue with that. Now, we can't talk about convertible notes this week without bringing up IREN. It's honestly pretty hard to have a podcast this week without talking about IREN. They're on such a roll right now, going from strength to strength. They were widely anticipated to get a large co-location deal in Texas. Now they've spun up their CSP business model, GPU as a service. They're expanding their GPU fleet. They're building out facilities in BC. They've got Childress. They've got Sweetwater. There's so much going on here, and the share price is definitely reflecting that.
Yeah, the share prices, and they've made a calculated decision here that they're not going to use the ATM for the foreseeable future. They've gone out there and they've managed to raise this 875 million convertible note there with the opportunity to increase that by a further 125 million, taking the total to around about $1 billion. Now they'll receive the majority of that, and the majority of that will be used for corporate purposes and obviously to increase and purchase the amount of GPUs they're going to use at their Prince George and Childress facilities. So we'll pay close attention to that there. Now the extension to get this extra 125 million is going to be in about just less than 2 weeks' time. Fully expected to do that. They've introduced a cap call, and perhaps you can tell us more about that, Bryce.
This is really becoming an industry standard we've seen with these convertible notes. And what was interesting to us, you and I had a good chat about this. The conversion price on this note is $85. So anyone purchasing the note obviously thinks IREN is going above 85. The other side of the coin, the capped call, management has set that at 100% premium at $120. So obviously on that side of the coin, management wants dilution protection. And in another way of saying it is actually purchased insurance and put their own money out to ensure that dilution does not occur up until 120. So that gives you a pretty good range of where people, investors, and management of the company think this company should be trading. I know we've seen tremendous growth with IREN. It really feels like this re-rate has taken full steam here, but a lot of people are saying this one could go quite higher.
Yeah, the market really liked this announcement this week, and generally, sometimes the market reacts indifferently to these type of announcements. But once more details of the pricing came out, the share price started to move back up, and today, in early trading, the share price was over $70. So an intraday all-time high for the company. Remember, back in April. We're only talking, what, just over 5 months ago. This share price was as low as $5.16. So those people who managed to buy during that bear part of the year will be sitting on some healthy profits at the moment.
They certainly will. Now, things are going so well at IREN. We thought, you know what, Anthony, we might as well load up the car, go take a look for ourselves. We're going to be heading down to Texas. We're going to check out IREN facility. Bitdeer, of course, they just came out with the A3. We had Jeff on the channel. A lot of excitement there. Riot, we just talked about, and Soluna. So, four world-class facilities spread all over West Texas. We've got Kevin Deedy from HC Wainwright joining us. We're going to try and get a ton of footage, behind the scenes view of these facilities, and then upload it all on YouTube for you guys to watch. So that's going to be a really exciting trip coming up in under a month.
But Bryce, does a Lamborghini have 3 seats?
Well, that was the problem. So we got a small trailer, I think. In all seriousness, we had to go for the SUV this time, but maybe next time, Anthony, we'll get a sports car. Hey, speaking of excitement as well, we had the CEO of Luxor Technologies on, Nick Hansen, yesterday. This was a surprise visit talking about the launch of Luxor Energy Platform. There's a lot of different facets here. Nick walked us through the three different components. This is big news for anyone in the Bitcoin mining space and anyone who uses Luxor.
Yeah, absolutely. And the components, as you mentioned there, three of them: retail energy provider, demand response, ancillary servicing and peak avoidance, and intelligent mining. So if you want to know more about those topics, be sure to click onto the podcast that we did with Nick. It was a great for him to do his first podcast. I'm sure he's going to be on again because I could have sat there for a couple of hours going through that podcast. It was great to listen to all things they're doing. And he's got such a wide knowledge of the space, especially in the mining space as well. So great to have some of that caliber on the podcast.
It certainly was. Yeah, he was talking about the form factor using old milk crates at the start of the mining journey, and talking about how far the industry's come now. These PPAs and the power arbitrage, the derivatives, all the different components that go into making a successful, profitable mining business. So definitely one to watch. If you didn't catch any or all of our videos this week, again, a great week for news. So make sure you guys go and take a listen over the weekend. We're also on the audio platforms as well. So Apple, Amazon, Spotify if you're at the gym or driving or whatever the case is. But we appreciate the support, you guys. A fantastic week in the markets. Hopefully, you made some money and remember to take those profits.